Hi, good day everyone. I am Erica May P. Carlos and I am from BEd 2H2. And for today's video, I am going to tackle about the principle of art in emphasis. So, what is emphasis? First, in visual art, it's important to draw attention and the viewer's eye to the main focal point or message of your artwork. That's why this means that emphasis is one of the tools we can use to accomplish that. Now, let's dive in. Emphasis in visual art refers to the principle of highlighting certain areas or elements within the composition to create a sense of importance and a focal point. Its purpose is to draw viewers' attention to that specific element or area. Emphasis can be achieved through several techniques, such as contrast, color, scale, placement, and repetition. An artist will create emphasis to draw your eyes to a specific spot. This exact spot can be a person, an inanimate object, or simply a line, and many more. This area of emphasis is called focal point. A focal point in art is a specific area or element within a composition that stands out as the primary point of interest or importance. This area of emphasis is called the focal point of the artwork. There can be more than one area drawing attention. However, in most cases, one is dominant over all others. Having two or more may cause confusions and lead to misinterpretation of the work. Now, why is using emphasis in art is important? Emphasis in art is important because it's a tool that allows an artist to guide the viewer attention to the main focus of the image. Without emphasis, a work of art may come as uninteresting or overwhelming, with no clear path for exploring it. And now, allow me to discuss more further about emphasis. So, did you know that there are 6 different ways on how you can create emphasis in an artwork? Yes, that's true. An artist can create emphasis in art through one of several ways, such as contrast, convergence, separation or isolation, exception or subordination, and location. Artists constantly use one or multiple of them in a single artwork. 1. Contrast. Contrast emphasis is one of the ways to create a focal point in art piece. It is most commonly done with color, value, texture, and line. However, most other elements can be strategically placed within a position to achieve a similar effect. One of the most common and easiest to spot tools that creates emphasis through contrast is color. For example, using complementary colors in a painting like purple and yellow. This immediately gives a sense of distinctions. Complementary colors are as far from each other on the color wheels as possible, which makes them the highest contrasting colors. Or simply using isolated color when one color is found only once throughout the whole piece because it doesn't match the rest of the image, it will immediately stand out, right? Another trick artists can use is absent color, where one object within an image is in color while the rest of it is in monochrome or vice versa. Value creates emphasis by placing either lighter values or muted tones in the strategically important places. A spot of a brightly lit primary subject or one in shade can quickly become the focal point if positioned strategically. Texture, on the other hand, can be used to create contrast if only the most important subject is textured, not textured or textured in a different way in comparison to the rest of the image. The line is an effective way to create emphasis by changing the line weight on a certain point. An artist can do it by making lines less or more visually heavy or changing the techniques in which they apply it. 2. Separation or isolation. Separation or isolation emphasis in art refers to placing the main subject separate from all other subjects. Surrounding the main subject with negative space only maximizes its importance. This means that the cluster of secondary subjects won't seem as important or interesting to the human brain as the particular subject that stands out. 3. Creation of exemption or the unusual. Creation of exemption emphasis in art means making an unusual choice for the focal point that isn't following any stylistic rules or makes no sense to our accepted ideas. For example, placing one blob shape instead of one rectangle on a chessboard or drawing a cow on the moon. One of them doesn't follow a set of rules on what shapes are used within an image. The other is an unusual idea that our brains find unexpected. Creating an exemption or something unusual is definitely one of the most fun ways for creating emphasis, right? 4. Convergence. Convergence emphasis in art is using literal or implied lines to draw attention to the focal points. Lines, shapes, edges, and object position have the power to create convergence. Convergence can create emphasis in multiple ways. For example, using the linear perspective to draw eyes to the fascinating point. Turning the subject's head will make us follow in that direction as well, using the lighter values as a guide, and so on. 5. Subordination. Subordination emphasis in art implies de-emphasizing the entirety of an image except for its focal point. Subordination can be created using all visual elements of art, with the most common being color, value, texture, and space. A great example of using color and value as tools for subordination are isolated color and the absent color, as we discussed in the color section. Also, simply adding lighter values and more saturation to the main subjects and composition to the rest of the image. Rendering or detailing is commonly seen as a tool for creating emphasis in paintings. The idea is to add more details or a higher level of rendering to the main subject in comparison to the rest of the painting. Space draws attention by having little negative space around the focal point and plenty around it. Lastly, 6. Location. Location emphasis in art indicates the position of subjects within the canvas. Artists use compositional rules to dictate where the main subject belongs. For example, the rule of thirds, the golden mean, or simply at the center of the page. Most harmonious focal points are usually near the center of the composition, but not directly in the center. Placing the object of art emphasis in the center very much de-emphasizes everything surrounding it. This can make viewers only pay attention to the center and disregard everything else. Knowing this rule, you can use or avoid with purpose. Examples of emphasis in art. The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. Location, placing the figure of Jesus in the center of the overall composition. Convergence, hands and bodies of the apostles' perspective lines. Contrast, light, value, and shapes of the windows behind Jesus. Separation, his figure has more negative space around it than all others. A bowl of plums painted by Jean-Baptiste Simeon Chardin. Contrast, the jug and bowl of fruit have more saturation. Contrast, brighter colors, light, and a different rendering style than the rest of the image. Location, jug placed on the rule of thirds. Isolation, the jug and bowl of fruit plus the small fruit on the left are surrounded by negative space. Subordination, lower value background in comparison to main subjects. Isolation, main still life subjects are isolated in an empty space.